Okay, so you ready for one more panel? I may be a little biased, but I feel like we might be the best panel. However, I wanted to ask Louis what that last tech tip he gave were about cleaning up everything we say, and I want to know if I can have that in real life. Because usually everything that comes out of my mouth, half of which I think you should never have said that, you should have stopped with the filter here. So if anybody wrote it down, I need that information.
Hey, sorry, real quick, not to interrupt you.
Yeah.
We have spots up here. Can we get some of the people to come up front, because we're going to be doing a video? We just need to fill the seats up here. Thank you.
So, how lucky have we been today to be here? How many people, no matter what company you're with, no matter the industry that we're all working, and everybody's telling us how difficult it is, how hard it is, but really think about, first of all, look how many people are in the room today taking notes. I'm listening rapidly. I've got tons and tons of information. One, write down one important thing that you've gotten from the previous panels, and definitely write down what you're going to hear from these gentlemen. I have been a student of investment and wealth building and just everything in the industry. And everyone on this panel has been somebody that I've been following or learned so much from. So I am really, really thrilled. Just doing our moderator pre-call, I was just over the moon about having you guys here and talking to you. So listen to everything that they say. They are the best in every one of these fields with regard to investment. So people who are looking to just get into the investment industry, oftentimes you think, I don't know anything about it, or you hear a lot of words that don't make a lot of sense. And I often say that when Kyle first started giving seminars on syndication, I had no... Okay. I feel like I'm so loud. So I take this off. We're good? Okay. Yeah? I'd like to change my accent as well. Kyle, I have been listening to your seminars forever. At first, I started listening to syndication. I had no understanding. I was listening to a foreign language. I kept tuning in, had no idea what you were saying, shaking it out of my head, zero understanding until I did it so many times that it started to make sense. And then I could discern what you were saying, and then I could make a decision to jump into that field. Bruce is an expert in land development and so many things that are so important to what we're doing, and I think how we're changing the landscape and where we have the opportunities. I think we're all saying there's no property, there's no availability. The fact is that a lot of what Bruce is doing and teaching us in turn to do, so thank you, is changing the landscape where we're going to find opportunities in our industry. And Michael, also known as Robert to me, because I'll generally say your name wrong first. Michael is going to talk to you about, everybody's going with this to me, all right, sorry. Michael's going to talk to you about your own personal wealth, your own personal finances, which has always been a sore spot for me. I'm very, very good at what I do with regard to investing. My personal finances has always been an Achilles heel. The 1 minute that we had on that call and what you talk about and what you're so passionate about, to me, has been so helpful. So if you're new to investing or an experienced investor, these guys have got it for you. So Kyle, you mentioned recently in a call that we've had, I've heard you talk about this, I've seen your social media talked about this. The recent changes in 2 to 4 families is changing the landscape, and there's so many good opportunities there. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so thank you guys all for having me. Al, thanks for putting on this amazing event. Really appreciate this. So with the changes with 2 to 4 family, that were just put into place in November, you can buy a 4-family now, conventional financing, 5% down. I always say, like, the biggest and maybe one regret I have when I first got into investing is that I didn't just take advantage of the FHA. The 4-family FHA put down like 5% and owner occupy 1 unit and house hack it. I didn't really learn about that until after I'd already bought my first place in Hoboken, because I thought I was a genius, because I was like, you know what, me and my friends, when we used to come here in college, we would all have to, this is before Uber, which makes me sound old, because we used to have to go to that taxi stand by the path and take a taxi back to the suburbs, and I was like, I wish there was a hotel here. There was no hotel besides a W. We didn't have $500 a night to spend, so I was like, I'm a genius, I'm gonna buy a condo, throw it on Airbnb. But the big change is now, 2 to 4 family, anybody who doesn't already own an investment property, you don't live in your own house already, buy a 4-family, put down 5%. Now that's easier said than done. You guys are all probably saying that to yourselves right now. Find them off market. It's a lot easier to find stuff off market than people want to believe. If you go into the tax records, you could search all multifamily properties in every single town, and then you just skip trace it. You could skip trace it through websites like mojosales.com, batchleads.com. You can get the cell phone numbers for any owner of any piece of and parcel of real estate out there. So if you can buy a 4-family, put down 5%, you live in 1 unit, and you buy it right now, again, interest rates are a little higher than what they've been over the past 20 years, but guess what? Rates go down, refinance, you're out of there, you go on to the next one. So I think that's like, if I could today, if I could, rewind my life 10 years, I'd be doing that today, right now.
I love it. And one of the things you talked about when we spoke last time is what areas do you see opportunities in? So you're talking about...
Microphone.
I'm sorry, I apologize. Areas that you see opportunity.
Yeah, as far as opportunity, like right now, obviously we're, Jay Powell was before Congress last week. He, said we are at peak interest rates for the cycle. When you're at peak interest rates, I mean, there's really no better time to buy an investment property. And the reason and thought process behind that is, especially large-scale commercial properties, if you're at peak interest rates, you're going to get the best deals you've gotten, in a few years at this point. Number two, kind of when you pair that with the fact that if you look at forward-looking data for new permits on multifamily construction, 5+ units, it's down between 40 to 50% year over year. Now there's typically an 18-month lag on that. So what you're going to see is when we get towards the latter half of 2025 and into 2026, like right now, rents nationwide are flat. But that's all about to change because when these new permits, when all this new construction is built, rents will remain flat for another year or so. But then, again, there's no new supply coming to market, and we have all-time high demand on the rental side. Q4 of 2023 set an all-time record tied with 2021 for the amount of apartments that were absorbed in Q4. So you're about to run into a situation where the supply is falling off a cliff because developers don't build when rates go higher. They try to, or at least they build less, and we have all-time high supply. So there's a big opportunity there. I think if you can find good deals this year, whether it be on the LP side or you guys yourselves, putting together a general partnership and you guys buying these deals, I think there's a big opportunity there. We personally haven't bought any deals approaching 2 years now. So where I've been parking money, where I've seen some opportunities on what's called preferred equity. What's preferred equity? So, give you guys an example. If somebody owns a $20 million apartment complex and they have a $10 million loan on that, and they just need some money to do some further renovations, like maybe they want to convert their heating and air conditioning system or things of that sort, they might be looking for, $1.5, $2 million for that. And the way that it's approached to me is I look at this, the first lien holder is $10 million, the asset is worth $20 million. If they take on an additional, let's say, $2 million, God forbid that gets foreclosed on, well, their first lien is $10 million. My part of it is $2 million, and the asset's worth $20. I'm more than covered, and typically they pay like 12% current pay. What does that mean? That means if I put $100,000 into it, I'm clipping coupons of $1,000 a month. To me, it feels like free money. Now, you can't say anything's guaranteed, but it feels about as free of money to me as I've seen in a very long time. There's no additional equity upside. I would say that's a con of it, but I mean, it's a, to me, I view it as like a free coupon of 12% annualized every year, and I'll get my $100,000 back if I put $100,000 into it when that property does eventually sell.
Thank you. Kyle, also, I watched how many seminars of yours, and you've been talking about syndication forever, but you're also very honest and transparent, and you've been saying, I'm not putting my own money in this right now, this is where I'm going with that, so please also hear that. So, Michael, you mentioned the basic rules of wealth creation. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, and actually before the basics, I want you to understand that there's a prerequisite in when you're thinking about building wealth. And when I think about building wealth, the one thing that hits me is health, right? Because I think that they go hand in hand. But the prerequisite for building wealth is solvency. Okay? What do I mean by that? I don't know. You need to understand that you need to earn more than you spend, right? Kyle's talking about putting 5% down, and that's less than the 10 or 20% down if you're out your feet, but you need money for that 5%. And you're not going to deploy money that you don't have. So creating solvency, right? What's the action steps you could take to do that? Number one is get rid of that debt. Yes. Right? You guys could probably think of right now if all of you, including myself, have bad debt. And that's eating into our ability to deploy money to become wealthy. Right? So get rid of bad debt, create a reserve, come 4 to 6 months, and take 40% of your savings and put it into what I call a wealth origination account. That's my money that I know when I'm constantly putting in there, when something comes up that I want, I'm getting it. Like it's the money's gonna be there. And when I don't have that money in that wealth formation account, the only focus I have is how do I get that wealth formation account to where it stay. But you can't do that with bad debt. A principle, a philosophy that I follow and truly believe in, and it took me a while to understand it, was the wealthy save money, spend money, and then pay taxes. The not so wealthy pay taxes, spend money, and then save. And it's a complete reverse psychology of the way to do it. And then as you get further along, you understand what that means. How do you spend money and save money before you pay taxes? Right? But that's where there's other strategies that go into that. But understanding that that's the prerequisite for all of this is massive of the foundation of accumulating wealth. But the 8 points, number 1, earn more than you spend. Number 2, own more than you owe. Number 3, track everything. You need to know what's coming in and what's coming out at all times. So I want to pull this up so I don't forget anything. So number 4, it's just not what you make, it's what you keep.
Amen.
And it's not just what you keep, it's where you put it. Have more passive income than the active income. Right? Passive income. Make more money passively than you do actively. Surround yourself with people who are on the same journey as you. Read, listen, teach, repeat. Right? These are the 8 steps. Unless I'm missed one. No, I think that's it. So these are the 8 steps. And it goes into detail for each one, but don't make something simple complex. I know this sounds complex, but the simplicity in it is there. This isn't the first time you've heard this. This information is everywhere. My goal today is to at least take something that's complex in most people's minds and make it simple and help you have that confidence in executing something that is simple if you take the right steps. And again, that just circles back to the prerequisite of solvency.
I love it, thank you. One of the things that you just mentioned was taking your, whatever that amount was, you said 40%, and putting it into a wealth building account, wealth accountability, wealth coordination account. And that was one of the very first things. I never thought that I would have enough money to save for a down payment, got myself out of really bad financial situations twice, decimated, and just kept in my mind the negative saying, I don't have it, I'm not gonna have it, where just took the passive income that we get at Keller Williams or anything else that we have passive income and put it in that account. It didn't look like anything. And then eventually it did look like something, and then when an opportunity came that I could put it in there, so I took passive income to go with passive income. I wouldn't have known that if somebody like yourself didn't tell me that and make me realize that's a negative mindset, 1, and number 2, I do have it, I can do it. And then that was probably the first investment thing that I was able to do after years of helping other people make a lot of money. So thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome. And that's why I said it goes to health, right? When you go to the gym, you don't see that result day 1, day 2, day 3, week 2. It takes time. But if you don't have that discipline to stick to that plan, you're not going to see that result. And that's why you constantly have to look at it.
Thank you. So Bruce, where would you start for someone who wants to get into land development?
Hi everyone, my name is Elia Jr. and I'm passionate about land development. So a lot of the people in this room I'm very close with, I know, and I've familiarized myself with a lot of people to be able to encourage people to take a stance on something that they want into, a building of wealth, choosing of an asset class and invest in commercial real estate or just residential. The best thing that I would do is educate yourself first. Now, what do I mean implementing today? The first book I ever read was a book called Hold. It's a great book. It's called Hold. You buy a property, you understand what the income is, you understand what the expenses are, you understand what your down payment is. Write this down. You need to know what your cash on cash return is. You want to buy one single family, or you want to buy 200 units, or 2,000 units. You need to know what your cash on cash is. So your cash on cash is going to be your positive net cash flow divided by your down payment. You understand that, and you start off in that category with every bit of advice that's going alongside here, you're going to know very quickly, in a rule of thumb on an appointment, and I encourage every single person here to know that we are the first point of entry for investment. Why? Because the first thing that I do when I have a scheduled listing appointment with myself and my team is A, see, is this an investment property? Because many moons ago when Gary Keller was on stage, and he told me, he told us all, we are the entry point. You have the first opportunity to see an investment. Now, if that is your investment criteria, it should prescribe to prior knowing what you're looking for, or reading the book whole, or having some education behind it. Once it pops up, for some reason, the world has a way of manifesting. Believe in it because it's true. That property that you are looking for somehow pops up, somehow is off market, somehow is in the neighborhood that you're seeking. And all you have to do is strike. And let me teach you guys one thing. It's not just you in this room that wants to strike. It's the person to your left, it's the person to your right. I encourage partnerships. One of the best things I ever did was partner with somebody that we most all know is Jason Trumbicki with Trelia. I encourage everyone to have like minds, like habits, like abilities. Grow together with somebody if it's not just going to be yourself. I don't like going alone. That's for fast people. I like going far. So I'm going to go with you. I encourage that. So remember, cash on cash return. What is it? Positive net cash flow over down payment divided by down payment. Good job, Kenny. So remember, understanding that will lead you to the education. We all sell real estate. If you're the first entry point, you see an investment opportunity, you got a guy or a gal that's next to you that has a little bit of piss and vinegar, a little bit of funds, maybe some equity, maybe some cash, you put a deal together. The funniest part is I learned many moons ago that I was doing that for so many people, and I was making them so wealthy. And I said, how do I get my unfair share of this pie like Gary's telling me? Because darn it, I won.
Yeah.
And I said to myself, I gotta start somewhere. It took me 39 investors to get my first investor. 39. 39 people told me no before they said yes. Now, I'm nobody special. I'm just like everyone in this room. I just got a little bit of a will to weigh and a mind on top of me and waking up every day with the same habit. So I encourage you. It took me 39. Maybe it'll take you 1 or 2 or 59. Persistence. Persistence. Persistence.
Yes.
Number 2, when you read the book Hold, understand that what you're going to do is know how cash flow works with investment properties. It does not matter what property you look for. It could be a huge industrial building on the outskirts of your town that you've seen the whole time. Somebody's still receiving income, and somebody's still going to have expenses. Your education to understand where you isolate those expenses to be appropriately accurate, to be able to actually understand where your gross margins are, is your key. Because if you can do that, it doesn't matter if it's an industrial, an office building, a medical building, it doesn't matter. I know what the income and expenses are, and I know where they start trading. Through my education, I knew that this was a good deal, and I went for it. The first limiting belief I removed was the fact that I didn't know what it was. I knew what it was. I just needed somebody else to believe in it with me. That's why I encourage sharing amongst yourselves. Do things together that you normally wouldn't do yourself. Because guarantee, if you're going to grow, to get uncomfortable, so that you're uncomfortable, you're learning. And if you're learning and earning, and all of a sudden you bought that 1, you bought a 2, and now all of a sudden you're looking back 3 years later, your cash flow is up 15%, You have a couple $100,000 in equity on a property that you just service. What does your business look like? What is your conversations around the clientele that you're servicing with conviction? Saying, no, this is what I think, this is how you do it. People start believing that person is their killer. And then they want to also partner with you, share with you, give opportunities to you. Most of the people in this room that I know have done a lot of business with because of opportunities that we share together. For no other reason. I encourage you, read the book called, the 2 apps that I use are called Evaluator. You write this down in the App Store. Evaluator. I encourage this. Any class that anyone's here attended that's heard this, Evaluator allows you to evaluate any parcel of real estate. It's automated, it flows, it makes you look like a rock star to your clients. They think that I spend hours, so don't tell them. Okay? They think I spend hours, and I'm saying this because I want to share it with everyone. The smarter you guys are, the smarter I'm going to be. Kyle might be alongside us. We've got a lot of opportunities ahead of us, so we want to encourage everybody to do the same. We're all here for you guys are all here for us. With common mindsets of entrepreneurship that we need to take to the next level. So I'm leading a charge of pushing through land development for everybody and through network growth.
Thank you, and that's really who you are, because I've called you how many times, and we've had multiple conversations, and Bruce always comes from partnership and from helping somebody else out. So the first thing was you answering all my questions, and then, you know, scheduling another meeting, and what can we do together, and how can I help you? So.
Oh, good call. Sorry. So when I started in the business, I came from Wall Street and I started fixing homes and doing fix and flips to a company called Wholesale Homes. The Fix and Flip app is the one that I use. It's called Fix and Flip. Now here's the thing. I don't like the term. So please try not to use the term because it's a distinguishing term of negativity. Use it in the way that the app is, but don't say it's a fix and flip. Okay, I use that software for so long, and I still do on valuation checks. The properties that I'm buying, 1 to 4 families to renovate and then sell. Here's the thing: use it for your clients. When you do that, you separate yourself from the others. The reason that you see bigger businesses grow is through that expert knowledge. When I provide a financial analysis report that's 5 pages that took me 20 minutes to do, but seems like 2 hours, who do you think that they're going to utilize and use when they're going against an agent that has a spreadsheet on an Excel? Somebody that doesn't underwrite properly. They're going to obviously go with the more qualified personnel. So I'm encouraging you guys to get qualified, because once you're there, they're going to use you every time. There's no reason to go elsewhere. So I encourage that. Fix and flip and invite.
It's in the calculator still.
It is. Looks like a little house. Looks like a little house. You get a money symbol on there.
Calculator with a house.
No. So I'll send it all together. It looks like a house with a money symbol. It's called Fix and Flip, and the other one's Evaluator. But I'll make sure everybody has it.
You can't like that when you
Does everybody have that?
Hey, show you they're both there.
trust you.
Paul, I'll make sure that you have that. Everybody else is on.
Thank you. All right, so let's stick with Bruce. So you've got a first couple of ideas here. What would be your strategy once you've started to grow? What would be your next steps? You've started to grow. You got your feet a little bit. What's next?
So land development. Once you're starting to do a fix and flip and you get a 2 to 4 family build, you'll see the common duplexes side by side. It's really simple to value. It's not easy, but it's simple. You can start with something in that regard. Now, what I look for, and this is an implementable tool into your business leaving today, is the rule of 3. If I find a new construction property opportunity for land development, the first thing I'm doing is seeing 1 to 4 family only. 1 to 4 family only is the rule of 3. What is the rule of 3? Rule of 3 is if I'm paying $500,000 for that property, the sale of it, it's better to be what? 3 times the money, $1.5 million. If I'm buying a property that's $800,000 and I'm looking at it from a land development perspective, or a 1 to 4 family, what would I expect the resale value to be? $2.4 million. So if you can implement this into your business right now, you'll find new construction lots, because I guarantee you in your towns, these opportunities exist. I used this rule for a decade. I was taught by my father this rule, and it was something that changed my entire business. Because one of the classes that we're going to be coming out with as well is how to make $100,000 doing 5 deals. Okay? And what does that mean? It means the land development portion is the key. Because what I leverage my business in is going to one listing appointment and getting a property for 40 units that I can put on there, putting a structure together for a GP and LP role to put that property into motion, for approvals to be had, creating value, creating assets, Tony Robbins, Robert Kiyosaki style, creating the wealth that I'm seeking through adding value. You guys can do that, I know I can, and these guys actually can too. All you have to do is start implementing it. Once you said, oh my God, yeah, that lot, 600,000, I sold it for 1.8, oh my God, I see another lot, 525, good deal. How do I partner? Maybe you go next to the builder and the partner and say, hey, listen, I've got a property for 600,000, but you're tying it up for 5.25. You're building the equity, that's 75,000, I'm gonna throw into the property. I'm gonna throw that 75 in there, plus I'm gonna throw my commission in. You know why? Because on the back end of that deal, I'm making a couple $100,000. This is where your education will be. This is why when you actually understand the wealth building portion of this and the land development portion, what you're doing is creating living freedom. Try it once, I encourage you to. Try it once when you leave this. In your towns that you know, do the rule of 3. Anytime you get a listing, do the rule of 3. That house that's dilapidated that nobody wants could just be that next opportunity that created you and your family wealth that helped you pay for your child's college.
Perfect, thank you. So a lot of what Bruce was just talking about is kind of the epitome of what syndication is, right? You're finding an undervalued property and you're at the master at really walking us through the whole entire process of how you bring that value up. Can you explain what syndication is?
Yeah, so all syndication is just a large partnership. That's really all it is. So, typically, as an example, our syndicates, I work with 2 partners, same 2 partners every deal we do. So if anybody's ever seen any of our deals, it's me, Shane, and Prashant on every deal that we do. All syndicate is, just the simplest, easiest way to explain it, just a very large partnership. So rather than you and one partner, it's me, Shane, Prashant, and then perhaps 100 limited partners in that. So we'll go out, we look for deals, as an example, a couple weeks back, we bid on what's called a BTR community, which is a build-to-rent community of single-family homes down in Houston. So that, really good location, but we always analyze it based on the numbers that we expect for returns for ourselves and for our investors. So we submitted an offer at $21.1 million on that. Unfortunately, they did not go with us. This is one of many offers we have not gotten accepted in the past 2 years. And they wound up selling, we heard through the grapevine, for 23.3 on that one. But again, for us and for our investors, they know what we kind of target. And I tell everybody right now, if we had crystal balls, if you would have told me in early 2022 that the interest rates would be where they are now, I would have passed on buying 2 of the deals we bought in 2022. And I would have just said, well, if I knew that rates were going to peak where they are now and then come down from here, I would have just passed on those and tried to buy those in 2024 because you want to buy, again, based on where the rates happen to be. So, yeah, all syndication is just a large partnership. There's nuances to it. There's definitely documents that come along with it. Subscription agreements, operating agreements, PPMs, private place memorandums, and things like that. But yeah, at its core, it's just a large partnership. That's all it is.
So you've explained a lot, and I'm never going to try to explain it because I'm this much. I've been fascinated, but you're talking, a lot of times when you're doing a seminar on syndication, you're explaining how we're taking the value of a property, you're finding properties that are undervalued, and then all of the reasons, and then actually all the line items that brings us to where, and how that makes it a valuable. So can you talk about that? So some of the things you do to a property, in your head what that number looks like and where that's going to bring us, and then the research that's done around that.
Yeah, so there's a couple components of value, right? You want to grow your NOI, net operating income, and then ultimately, the valuation when you go to sell, that's dependent upon market conditions. So, as an example, property we bought 2 years ago, we're crushing it on revenue growth. We just had our 2-year call recently, 24%. We've been able to grow our income on that property. However, interest rates went up. When interest rates go up, cap rates go up. Now, fortunate, we don't have to sell it now. Because despite how much we've been able to grow the income, if we had to sell it now, we would lose money on that sale. Because again, there's things that are out of your control as well. So, fortunate for us, we're not under the gun and being forced to sell right now. Unfortunate for others, there are others who are under that gun and are forced to sell right now because they're hitting loan maturities, and in order to get an extension on their loan, they need to hit certain covenants. Those covenants being what's called a debt yield. Now, what's debt yield? That means you take your NOI divided by the loan amount. Or, DCR, which is debt service coverage ratio, which means that the income that you're generating on that property has to be making 1.25x what your debt payment is, that monthly debt payment or annual debt service. So it's the whole key. You need to find properties, and you don't want to be the new guy on the block to try something new. You want somebody else to be the guinea pig, and you just follow the herd. I know a lot of people think I want to blaze my own path. I disagree with that in this space at least. I like to just say, look, if the neighboring property just did all these renovations and they're getting the rise in rent from it, well, thank you for testing the market for us and seeing that it works. We're just going to copy you now. So we don't want to be the first to market to try to do something.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty logical in everything. If we're buying any property, the $23 million guy might take a hit later. Same thing, oftentimes if you're bidding on properties and you're trying to get investment property and you're thinking, I keep getting outbid, and you see somebody pay a number that you're like, these don't add up, this doesn't make any sense. Oftentimes they're making rash decisions, they're trying to blaze the trail, probably to bankruptcy. So that applies to kind of anything that you're doing. The principles, no matter what we're talking about, personal wealth, land development or syndication, and I know you're involved in so many other things. I watch and listen to everything that you're saying. Also, if everything that he just said, you had no idea what he was saying, and you're shaking your head, you're thinking, I'm never going to remember what DTR is and all that, he'll repeat it again in such a nice way that you're like, okay, I got it now.
Yeah. I'll give you guys a perfect example. Like, we bought a property in Glendale, which is outside of Phoenix, where the Cardinals play. If anybody follows the NFL there, so right on West Bethany Home Road, which is the same street that the stadium actually happens to be on, and we bought that property for $11.635 back in 2019, and we sold it in 2022 for $25 million, and our investors crushed it on that deal. With that being said, I'm always fully transparent with that, and I'm not going to sit up here and pound my chest and say our investors 4x their money in 3.5 years because we're great investors. Our investors 4x our money because we operated the property well, but I'm not dumb enough to tell you that the market didn't have anything to do with that. When interest rates went to zero, as long as you had an actual pulse, it would have been very tough not to make money and not to make a lot of money. And funny enough, in late 2019, the broker we bought that deal off kept bringing us new deals. And me and my partner said, we think the market's overbought here. Well, if you want to say we're stupid, we could have bought a lot more deals in 2019 and made a lot more money, but we felt it was overbought. But those same groups that kept buying those deals, they never stopped. And they were buying upwards of 10, 20, 30 assets per year. One of those groups, if anybody follows this stuff, called the Tides, they just had to take out like 500 or 600, an insane amount of millions, maybe even close to billions of dollars worth of rescue capital. And the only reason they were able to get it is because had they defaulted, which they were on pace to do, the lender they took out the loans, that entire lender would have gone under and failed. Just because of one of their borrowers. And that's the only reason they got that rescue capital, and they're just kicking the can down the road. Some of these properties have, when I talk about DCR, debt service coverage ratio, if your monthly loan payment is $100,000, some of them are only bringing in income of like $37,000.
Right.
So they're deeply, in not good shape. But again, some of these lenders can't let them fail because if they fail, then they fail.
Right.
Yeah. So you're going to see more banks fail. I mean, that's no secret. Everybody knows there's a lot of small community banks, unfortunately, in some trouble. But opportunity will arise from that, and being able to capitalize on that is the key.
Thank you. Yeah, if you're not following Kyle, he talks about a lot of things and a lot of things about happening in our environment and happening with wealth building all across the board. So definitely somebody to follow. So Michael, where did you start? You talked a lot about how to, one of the first things is to get out of debt. Tell us a little bit about yourself and where did you start? And you said you got started right out of college. What does that look like and how did real estate become the thing?
So, you said that. The way that I started was coming from listening to my father with the principle of just save money. He was against me ever buying my first investment property, didn't understand it, just wasn't his understanding. Oddly enough, and this is a lesson for you all to know, especially down there in this market, the first investment property I bought was probably, a single in terms of how good of a deal it was. Well, fast forward 10 years, it's probably the best investment that I own, right? Because a lot has changed. It's a cash capital. Right now, the passive income just on that property alone is $3,000 a month. But that was a single. I couldn't get that right now if I tried, right? But in order to do that, I had to save. But one of the biggest things that I learned, going back to what Bruce said with hold, there's another philosophy that I live by, that if you want to go broke, sell shit that goes up in value. Right? Like rich people hold things that go up in value. And I want to give you a quick example. Most of you have your phone out anyway. Take your phone out. Go to investor.gov. Investor.gov. Good. This will hit home with a lot of people. As soon as you go, you can see all the sidebars, hit financial tools and calculators.
I think so.
Investor.gov, financial tools and calculators. Click the pink box that says compound interest calculator, savings. Hit go to calculator.
Document. Wow. That's on here. No, used. Core. The stuff.
Are you guys there?
Are you there?
Well, look, there it is. It should have a screen that looks like this. Something like that.
It's a dog. And I
Good. Follow, believe me, you'll like it. Okay. Before we go, I'll tell you a quick story about this. All right, my wife is somebody that drinks Starbucks every day, goes out, gets her juices for $9 a juice. It just drives me nuts. And she'll be the first to complain about money because I'm tight with it. And the first thing we did was teaching her about why I'm tight with my money and why I spend it wisely and what it could do for us, yourself, now our child who's 6 months old, who, like, this can make a massive difference. And with that wealth and financial ability, it can make a difference in our life, it can make a difference in our family's lives, it can make a difference with the people we teach and coach and can help, right? So going back to this calculator, what I want you to do is your initial investment. We'll do one example for you, right? I'll do one for my son. All right, my son's 6 months old. I want you to do your own, but follow me. Your initial investment, so $10,000, $20,000, $30,000. What could you invest right now today? $5,000, $1,000, whatever it is, put that number in. For my son, he was fortunate enough. He was given $40,000 from family members and whatnot to start his account. So I'm going to put $40,000 in for him. Step 2, contribution. Right? This goes into my wife. She was spending at least $150 to $175 a month on junk, just crap. That's at our house. That was not necessary. I would have her put this contribution into what she could do monthly. Right? What could you do monthly? For my son Mikey, over the course of the next 40 years, so when he turns 40, I'm going to say we're going to contribute $1,000 a month, right? That may be $500 today, this whole year, but as he gets older, maybe he'll contribute $1,000, $2,000, whatever that may be. So I'm going to put $1,000 a month for contribution. That could also be, look at your car. Do you really need a $3,000 payment, or could you do a $2,000 payment with the car? Because that $1,000, when you do this exercise, you're going to see the massive difference in your life you will have. Length of time in years. How long? I would say minimum 30, 20, doesn't matter your age. For Mikey, it's going to be 40. Step 3, interest rate. The S&P 500 over the last 30 years has produced an 11% return over the last 30 years. Again, talk about buying things that go up in value. I'm not the philosophy of buy, trade, buy, trade, buy, trade. I know there's a whole business on there and people get very wealthy. That's just not my investing philosophy, right? So interest rate, put 11. Interest rate variance range, leave blank. And when compound frequency, put daily, because the stock market compounds daily. Now hit calculate.
Quarterly. Yep.
On this example, right, at 40 years old, my son got $39.5 million
For a second.
if he executes. Because I'm not going to execute this forever. I did my part. But he's going to understand that if he can take that $1,000 a month and continue to do this, what he's left with at 40.
Wait.
That makes sense? And when you do that example with your coworker that gets to Starbucks every day, right? That's $20 a week, that's $80 a month, whatever that may be. Over 30 years, that's still $250,000. Just off those little things that you have. So when I talk about where did you start and to get started, a lot of it has to be understanding it. Again, that whole prerequisite to what wealth is and how to get there. And it's not hard to get started. And this is the prime example of starting to build wealth. Does that make sense? And I encourage all of you, because I think that the biggest impact that exercise that I just did with you, it may feel a little different to you because we're a little older, we have a little less time, but you need to understand that if you change that 30 to 35, look how big that number changed. Why? Because of the compounding interest daily, year over year, right? So that's the whole philosophy with the hold, the buy and hold, and that's the same thing I do with my investment projects, with the equity, the cash flow, etc. The other way that I got started was with partnership. I wasn't a big syndication guy because it was just way over my head. I'm not smart whatsoever, and I don't try to. It was hard, and I didn't have that understanding of it. But what I knew was through my partnerships that in this real estate world, people needed money to buy homes, right? So a last deal we just did, me and another partner, we lent somebody $200,000. This is what you call a note, right? We lent them $200,000. I put in 100, he put in 100. We charged 1.5% in points, $3,500. We charged an admin fee of like $800, and it was a 9% interest rate. When you calculate that annually for the year, that's a 12% return cash on cash. Right? Like, I'm not always getting 12%, nowhere near that at some points on my investing properties. But if I can take that money and invest it in that note and get 12% of my money, that's phenomenal. Not to mention the collateral of the asset of the home if something was to go in the direction that nobody hopes for. But now I have another asset as collateral. Right? So you have your notes, you have the $5 a month, $10 a month you can invest into the market and stay principled about buying gold, and obviously that just comes to Warren Buffett. Now, I don't know if anybody you just read the note to shareholders that Warren Buffett just put out that he puts out every year. It's the information that he gives it's unbelievable, but it's basic. But the reality is we all look for the shiny penny, how to get rich quick, and nobody wants to stay disciplined or principled over a long period of time that's not sexy. But there's a lot to be said about those who do that. So again, going into philosophy, the notes, getting into investment properties, you could partner in syndications at some other type of income volume. And as you continue to grow, you have to development and everything else. But this should be all passive income, right? And accumulating your wealth. But you can't do this without the reserves, or with the bad debt, or the bullshit coffee and juices.
Can you imagine living in his house? Also, I have to laugh. He says, and some of us are older. I'm like, I've got about an hour and a half, not 30 years, but still. Michael, can you talk about the net worth tracker that you use?
Yeah, actually, so
Cool.
everything that I do in my world is gamified. I get bored quickly. If there's no games, like I'm just not like to sit. And what I did with my wealth, because I thought I was wealthy, and when I really got into coaching at the highest of levels, the first thing that he asked me was, Mike, what's your net worth? And I just threw a number out there because I wasn't sure if I wanted to sound high and whatnot. And he said, all right, cool, let's fill out this sheet. And I had to take a moment because I didn't know all the answers, but I set it back, and it was not even close. I mean, I think I was in the negatives from my net worth. Because I had more bad debt, right? This is going back. And I wasn't truly always making more than I was spending. because I didn't have a tax strategy, and I didn't have all these other things in place. So I do monthly now, religiously, and now actually my wife is into it because because I'm tight with the money, she wants to make sure we're making more, advance it more.
Hiding more.
Yeah, exactly. So she's open to everything there. She's pretty. But we track everything in terms of net worth that we gamify, right? So if our net worth ever went down, we need to answer why, right? And your net worth tracker has all our investment properties, right? What's owed, what's the value, right? And then what's that net? And then we start adding up all of our nets to start getting an idea of what our wealth is in that category. Now we take our stock market equivalents. We add that to our net worth. What is the business worth? Right? What are some of the farm, what's the farm worth? As you continue to add all those boxes up, you get a good picture of what your net worth is, right? That's minus the debt. And we gamify that and make sure that that's going up monthly or quarterly and that it's never going in the wrong direction. But what I can tell you right now, had I not started tracking that, I would not be close to where I am today. Because it's almost impossible to build without a plan. Like, Bruce is not building 109 units without a damn plan. Like, plumbing has to go somewhere, terraces have to go somewhere, the money has to go somewhere, there's expense. There has to be a plan to do this. And this is your plan, right? What comes in, what comes out, and how you get there. And then it's just all about connecting the dots to get there with this very simple net worth tracker that I think you guys are going to share to everybody.
Everybody will get one.
But that was a big part of what helped me tremendously.
Thank you for sharing that. I'm on the opposite side of that. I thought I had no net worth whatsoever. I joined a group a year and a half ago, worked through this thing, and I can analyze your property like nobody's business, but analyze my own wealth, I want to go la la la. I don't want to hear it. So I thought I had no net worth. And by doing this monthly and getting used to the words and getting comfortable with realizing I could take all this crap off here and wow, I actually do have, it really helped me personally. So if you're on the other side of the equation and thinking, I realized I did have a lot and then I realized where I could cut it and where I could make more and that gave me more, sense of confidence to do it. And instead of being so afraid of it and so overwhelmed by it and so, negative mindset of it, I now look forward to it. Not in the same way. But enough that I'm not ignoring very, very glaring things. And the same thing we're saying, we've made a lot of people very wealthy in our careers, no matter what you're doing. It's time that we become wealthy. It's time that we're the people that are getting a piece of the action on that. So whichever section you're listening to, or even if you're brand new or you're totally experienced, it's time that we become wealthy. We have, Gary says it all the time, we have an unfair advantage. We're getting inside trader information. We should be capitalizing on that. And I've heard it for so many years. And only just recently, I'm really capitalizing on that in little ways, big ways, but every day. That's what inspires me so much about the industry that we're in. And then the next level of learning more and then helping other people learn more. So I'm going to ask, how many more minutes do we have? 1, 2, 5?
We got a good Q&A.
Okay. All right, we're going to go to Q&A. I want to ask 2 questions of you guys before we go to Q&A. What inspires you right now in this market? Everybody's saying gloom and doom. What are you inspired about? Because you guys are really big thinkers and really, really into what you're doing. Maybe it's different what you're doing right now. And what are you listening to or reading right now? And then we'll go to Q&A.
Yeah, I'll start. What I'm excited about is I think a lot of people who put in the work over the last 2 years in sales is going to start really reaping the benefits the second half of the year and into next year. I think that bow and arrow was stopped back and it's about to fly. And somebody's arrow is going to go a lot further who's put in that work, but it's been tough. But I'm really excited about that. The thing that I'm reading right now, I've read it 3 or 4 times, is Wheelwright.
Oh, love it.
Strategies. He's phenomenal, and I'd love to talk a little bit about that after about cost segregation, because I think that can be a huge impact on everybody's life, specifically in this room, for your personal self and also for your clients. Because if you can advise on this, you're going to be an advisor for them on just about anything.
And he's Tom Wheelwright.
Tom Wheelwright.
And he's
5 tax strategies.
He speaks English. He speaks big concepts about tax and wealth and keeping your wealth, but in English that you don't feel like you can understand it. So even I can understand Tom. I love Tom.
It's the five important tax strategies.
And he has a podcast as well.
Yes.
Okay. Somebody else?
Yeah, so what I'm really passionate about and what's inspiring me these days is changing and advancing communities one by one. I want to look to change the streetscape, modernize some things, as well as put in some bells and whistles that we have for utilization of just everyday needs that we have through land development. What does that mean? Well, we're very active right now in the adult active townhouse communities. Why? Because there's a huge void right now. Think about your families. The baby boomer generation is the biggest one coming in to the next wave of needing housing. If you guys have read headlines, we're clearly millions of homes underdeveloped for the introduction. There's a void in this marketplace immediately in northern New Jersey, and my team, Elliot, and the entire Elia Realty Group organization is spinning. We're doing it alongside some great people and some national publicly traded companies to change the way the streetscape is. What does that mean? It means that that huge plot of land that nobody's done anything with, that's half fenced, that could be a liability in town, people sneaking in, unwarranted things going involved in that for people to, you name it. What do? We change that into an active adult community. We make the amenity packages fit towards the baby boomer generation. I'm hugely passionate about it. My father, my mother, and all of our family members are in these next waves. They need housing. They need proper housing. What am I passionate about? Making sure I get back to the people that always gave to me. And that's huge for me right now. And I encourage you guys to do it too. Because the same people that paved the road that I'm walking on, are those people that are going to need that housing. What am I reading right now?
Yes.
Oh man, I read it every single morning. Reading is a passion for me too. Why? Because it's knowledge. Now, here's the thing. Knowledge without execution is probably the worst thing that you can ever. So I encourage you guys, when you're reading a book and you're looking at something, execute the knowledge. Even if you fail, who cares? Why? You can do it again. It's not life or death. It's just the simple executional item. So use the knowledge to execute. What do? The holy grail of investing. Only on it right now. Almost done with it. Huge follower. Huge fan, and huge advocate towards everything that's going to be alongside this guys to helping on this as well. Holy grail of investing. It's on alternative investments, and it's a way of the future. It's understanding that once you do attain wealth, where do you want to allocate your money? Where do you want to see an advantage that you can help in communities? Because every single one of us has a passion inside. What you want to do with that passion and change, that's why you need the funds, the monies to be able to do it. Get a little bit of faith in yourself, that 5% I always say on this thing, appointments or just appointments, 5% of trust in me. I'm going to earn that 95 on the back end. That's all I do. I encourage you guys to use the same wording. I encourage you to take your own step. If you're thinking about doing something and you have the knowledge and you have this vinegar in you, go out there and set a real fire. I assure you, probably going to be back. It might be the best business decision that you've ever done. Similar to the way that Kyle, Mike, and myself, I took a lot of chances in this world and we continue to. I just do it back dollars and next.
I'm in awe of you. Kyle, tell us.
I guess mostly excited about the deals that seem to be starting to trickle on the market. On the commercial side, 100+ unit multifamily with, people being forced to sell because of loan maturities, and it's, the distress this cycle is weird because it's 95+% occupied properties that running into a loan maturity. So, good deals to buy it and really great prices. What am I reading? Every day I read real page data from Jake Harsons, who he actually just went off to start his own thing, but I religiously, every single day, I do two things. I read multifamily investment data, and 2 hours before sleep every night, I watch high school football film. For those of you that don't know, I'm a high school football coach at Hanover Park High School. So I'm just obsessed with watching film and multifamily data. So I do real estate so that I can coach football. I only do real estate so that I can coach football because no money coaching high school football. So
I never knew that about you.
yeah.